During the Second World War, the German Tiger tank rose to prominence and continues to be a popular topic of discussion even today. The Tiger is one of the most admired tanks of the war, if not all of tank history. Joseph Goebbels' relentless propaganda machine was instrumental in glorifying the Tiger. Tank aces like Michael Wittmann were catapulted into the spotlight and generously honored for their battlefield exploits. While some modern interpretations portray the Tiger as a semi-mythical wonder weapon, its contemporary evaluations were much more modest. Let's have a look at the conclusions reached by British experts, who analyzed this tank, and the countermeasures they designed to fight it. The Western Allies first saw the Tiger tank around the same time it emerged on the Eastern Front. A successful Allied advance in North Africa forced Hitler to take drastic measures, including the deployment of his most recent weapon. On November 23, 1942, the 501st Heavy Tank Battalion landed in Bizerta, Tunisia. A Tiger tank that was knocked out on January 31, 1943, was the first to be captured by the Allies, but on February 1, the Germans managed to destroy the tank before the British had a chance to examine it. According to a February 11 publication in the Tactical and Technical Trends magazine, the enemy has developed a new heavy tank that weighed around 50 tons, has an 88mm gun, and has 80 to 100mm of armor. This tank was known as the Mark 6, or Panzerkampfwagen 6. Soon after, an opportunity to learn more about the Tiger presented itself. On February 26, Operation Ochsenkopf, another German offensive, was launched in the direction of Sidi Ensar. As British sappers destroyed Tigers that were immobilized to deny them to the enemy, this victory did not reveal as much about the new tank as could have been anticipated. The 504th Heavy Tank Battalion received the remaining equipment from the 501st Battalion on March 17. This unit was responsible for finally delivering a Tiger in good condition to the British. On April 24, 1943, Tiger 131, first vehicle of the 1st Company, 3rd Platoon, was captured. A battalion of Churchills from the 48th Royal Tank Regiment engaged and knocked out the tank. 2 6-pounder shots hit the tank. One blasted off the left side turret lifting boss, and another jammed the turret by hitting in a favorable spot, between the gun mantlet and the hull roof. The crew abandoned the tank, and the Germans were unable to recapture it due to persistent artillery fire from the British. The tank was in less than ideal condition as a result, but it was still a much more useful item for study than minefield wrecks. Additionally, there were enough disabled Tigers for it to be put back into action. Winston Churchill and King George VI were shown the tank before it was delivered to the School of Tank Technology for further study. Even before the tank was sent to Britain, a detailed examination was carried out. Because there was no means to weigh it accurately in Tunisia, its weight was estimated to be 56 to 60 tons. The front armor was up to 102 mm, with the sides up to 82 mm thick. The cast mantlet had a complicated shape, with thicknesses as much as 150 mm near the gun sight opening, and even 205 mm near the gun. This was the first time the tank's speed could be assessed, as it was a runner. The top speed was 18 miles per hour, or 29 kilometers per hour. A close examination revealed that the gun was identical to the 88mm Flak 36 that the Allies were already familiar with. The conclusion that the Germans have built a very formidable tank was not without reservation. Its massive size and weight countered its thick armor and powerful gun. The report's conclusion reads, "The tank bristles with every sort of complication, and one would think that it would be at least twice as difficult to produce as either of its predecessors. This may have a bearing on the numbers that are likely to be met with in the future, and the degree of dilution by Mark IIIs and IVs. The remaining tanks in Tunisia were likewise put to good use. Armor samples were taken from the disabled vehicles. Additionally, theory was put into practice. A largely intact tank was located in a minefield at Hunt's Gap. Traces of a minor fire were detected on the tank's floor, but the specialists who evaluated it determined that it did not weaken the tank's armor. Engineers cleared the minefield within 100 yards of the tank, to give some room for tanks to fire, because it was dangerous to relocate the tank to a better shooting position. From 100 yards, a Sherman tank firing 75mm M61 APCBC penetrated the 62mm thick lower side armor at 30 degrees. The upper side could be penetrated only at an angle of 16.5 degrees, and the critical angle of penetration was estimated by the testers to be 17.5 degrees. The fact that capped 75mm ammunition performed well, and uncapped 75mm shot performed poorly, led the testers to the conclusion that the tank's side armor had likely been surface hardened. This theory was proven when the guns were fired at other Tigers. From 1,250 yards, the 6-pounder proved capable of penetrating the Tiger's side. Combat records show a 6-pounder penetrating 600 yards away at 30 degrees. From 1,050 yards, the rear, 82mm at 20 degrees, could be penetrated. Even the front plate of the Tiger was not immune. The 102mm thick plate, sloped at 10 degrees, was penetrated from 650 yards, whereas the lower front inclined at 20 degrees was not. However, a crack developed after a couple of 300 yards hits. A 2-pounder gun was able to penetrate the lower side armor. The 2-pounder could only get through the side armor if it hit the side away from the wheels. A 17-pounder armor-piercing shot could penetrate all armor, including the front of a Tiger at 1,800 yards, but the projectile shattered in the process. These tests verified the initial assumptions. The armor was often harder than British plate of comparable thickness. German armor performed marginally better than British armor in select circumstances, but in many cases it performed much worse. Cracking and spalling accompanied the penetrations. Additionally, British intelligence learned certain details about the tactical application of Tigers. Tiger tanks were reportedly used as mobile artillery in support of lighter vehicles, perhaps even through indirect fire or from hulls-down positions. About 20 Tigers made up a battalion, with the remaining medium tanks. Due to the Tiger's enormous size and weight, successful usage in difficult terrain required careful reconnaissance. The German forces in North Africa surrendered, as Allied specialists were studying captured Tigers. The Allies would once again face Tiger tanks in Italy, this time from the 504th and 508th Heavy Tank Battalions. The 508th was the first to reach the front lines. Since the Tiger tanks had been in combat for almost a year, one would anticipate that any teething issues would have been ironed out, and that the commanders would be familiar with their vehicles inside and out. The reality was far from ideal. 60% of the Tiger tanks sent to Italy broke down en route to the front, and one tank even caught fire and burned up while being pushed. The Tigers that made it to the front line fought on February 16, 1944, but were defeated by Allied defenses. Marshy terrain limited them to roads, where the tanks were exposed to aircraft, artillery, and mines. The Germans were unable to remove stuck or damaged tanks, using unarmored engineering half-tracks due to constant artillery barrages. After failing to push the Allies back into the sea, the Tigers returned to Rome. By March 1st, only 12 of the initial 45 tanks were still in use. Captured German instructions suggested that the loss of a Tiger was not an unusual occurrence. One document reminded tank crews that a Tiger cost the German people 300,000 Reichsmarks, and that such a large investment should be used with great caution and deliberation. Another document recommended that the myth of the Tiger's invulnerability be destroyed and diffused, because the opposition now possessed a plethora of weaponry, capable of defeating it. According to Allied reports, the percentage of broken-down Tigers appears to be significant. A June 1944 inquiry report, titled "Who Killed Tiger?" comes to a startling conclusion. Tiger is not yet developed enough to be regarded a reliable vehicle for long marches. It has frequent suspension problems and most likely, gearbox problems. When pushed, like as during a retreat, the problems become too frequent and severe for the German Maintenance and Recovery Organization to handle. Tiger killed itself. This was also the conclusion reached in the United Kingdom. The Tiger 131's engine failed twice during gunnery trials, both times in the same manner, indicating a design flaw. The Department of Tank Design discovered that the Tiger's air filters were considerably below the specifications of this department, in terms of effectiveness. The Germans had also done little to reduce the Tiger's reliance on roadways. During British trials, the Tiger's mud mobility was described in 2 words: extremely poor. With this information, it's not surprising that the belief that Sherman tanks with 75mm guns could win the war was so widespread. In ideal conditions, the Tiger was a fearsome opponent, but it was scarce, and its ranks were further dwindled by poor reliability and mobility. The Tigers had no notable success in either Africa or Italy. By 1944, the Tiger's biggest advantage on the battlefield, its armor and gun range, were equaled or surpassed by Allied advancements. If you have enjoyed the video, please subscribe and support the channel for more. Many thanks for watching.